Hello, we are reading Del Toro Moon by Darby Carteret, and we are also reading, well, not necessarily also, but we are reading chapter 17 of that book. All the way home, I mentally tried out 14 ways to mention Perry's writing lessons to Elsid and to my father, rejected all of them. Perry certainly is a charming young lady, Elsid said. It was nice of you to befriend her, seeing that she's new here. I didn't befriend her, we just hung out. And don't say anything to Dad or Ben about this, okay? Especially Ben. You know how he is. I do indeed. Reaching the yard, Elsid stomped at the bottom of the porch steps and waited until I slid off. As I wandered over the water barrel for a drink, I caught the drone of the television through the screen door. Dad watched the Weather Channel like older men watch sports. Like other men, sorry. Old school rancher's blood ran deep in the guy. "We're home," I yelled. You two were gone for a long time," Dad called back. "I was beginning to think you went to Nebraska for soda." "Sorry," I hesitated, then cranked up my courage. "I was hanging out with Perry. We sat on the porch." Preemptive move on my part. "Perry Vandermeer?" "Yeah. She and her mom are renting a house across from the 7-Eleven, just until the camp is ready." I held my breath, waiting to see what that of information would do. "That is nice. Go help your brother." Mission accomplished. I trailed after the gray. Once inside the barn, I fanned my t-shirt, relishing the cool air of the building. Sorry, relishing the cool air of the building. At the back, Turk lurked in a gloom, like some sort of vampire horse, afraid of sunlight. From the corner she had claimed, Izzy nickered a greeting. An enormous pile of straw was heaped at her feet. I opened the mound. "Wow." "Tell me about it," she sighed. "Last one." Ben carried another armload over and dropped it. He spread it around with a foot. "There, try it. You don't have to do this every day, you know. It's kind of overkill." She tested the pile with a front hoof. I might get lost in that." Ben laughed. Spotting me, he motioned toward the storage bins. "Your turn to wait on El Chapo." He tugged on Izzy's mane and left. I removed Elsid's saddle and halter and hauled them to the overrack. Wiping the I keep saying that wrong, clean of sweat and hair, I glanced over at Turk. He stood motionless, head high and staring at me. He reminded me of a black cobra waiting to strike. "The usual?" He grunted. I opened the metal storage bin with a clang, scooped out 2 helpings into a bucket, and carried it to his feeding tube. "Anything else, master?" I fought a grin, remembering. Oh, I lost my page. Sorry. Remembering Perry's imitation of Igor. "No." He bent his neck and began crunching away. I gritted my teeth. Another warm and heartful exchange. What my father saw in the black stallion was behind me. The couple of times I had asked him, he said that Trick was exactly what our family needed. Like what? A sociopath with 4 hooves? Why would anybody need that? "You're welcome," I sneered. I walked over to El Cid. My thoughts looped back around my earlier problem. Maybe I could just go to Perry's and not mention it to anyone. Like, it's no big deal. I eyed the gray. But what about El Cid? The gleam in his eyes stopped me cold. "What?" "Something's afoot," he said. "What do you mean?" Stalling for time, I headed back to the bins. I felt his attention on me the whole way, an inch between my shoulder blades. After filling the bucket with mixed oats and grains, sweetened with molasses, I sprinkled in the powdery vitamin supplement Kathleen had left for us, and mixed it with my hand. "You're up to something," he said as I poured him his supper into the feeding tube. Sorry, I said that really weird. The grain pinging merrily. "I can hear your brain whirling away." "Well, kind of." I leaned forward and whispered. "But just between you and me, okay?" "That depends," Elsid lowered his voice. "Does it involve you doing something foolish or dangerous?" "Dangerous?" "It's about Perry." "Ah, hazardous on another level." "You know she's course crazy, as most girls are." I peeked over Elsid's neck. Good. Izzy and Turk were both nostril deep in their meals. Perry asked if she could, I do not. Enlighten me. "Go riding?" "Horseback riding." "Yeah." "On me?" "No, on Turk. She's got a death wish." I made a face. "Yes, on you." And what was your response? I told her it'd be all right. Day after tomorrow, around 10. I crossed my toes inside my shoes and waited. He lowered his head and lipped up a mouthful, then munched in contemplation, molars grinding away. Well, he said, a few grains dribbling out, since you've committed us to this course, I would be churlish to say no. However, you should speak to your father about it. You know how he is about such things. Yeah, you're probably right. I blew out a long breath. Now all I have to do is keep Ben from finding out. He'll make my life miserable. The progression of an older brother, or the parogative. Okay, if I was reading my head, I would have got that. Man, that's for sure. I sighed. Why couldn't I have been born first? All through supper, I tried to figure out some way to get Dad alone so I could ask him about Perry. I kept eyeing him as I ate, struggling to think of an excuse. I know that look. Dad twirled around another bite of spaghetti around his fork. Thursday night was pasta night. I made a face. I made my face go blank as a whiteboard during summer break. What look? You want to ask me something that you already know the answer to? Or you want to confess something that is going to make me wish I had stayed single and childless. Childless. He paused, the fork halfway in his mouth. Did something happen when you were at Perry's? When you were with Perry? Was that where you were out all afternoon? At Perry's? Ben's face lit up. Well, what do you know? Miracles do happen. Baby brother has a girlfriend. Dude, I'm impressed. You just met her last week. Shut up, Ben. Do not use that phrase, Dad said automatically. It is rude. Now what happened? So have you two kissed yet? Ben pushed his empty plate aside and leaned forward. Or are you still holding sweaty hands stage? Because if you need any pointers, I'd be happy to. Wait. I take it back, our father said. Shut up, Ben. Better yet, go away. Smirking, Ben rose and carried his plate to the sink. Can I take the truck into town? Why? I don't know, just to go somewhere? To me, that wasn't a reason. But it seemed to make sense to Dad. His expression softened. Leaning to one side, he dug the keys out of his pocket and a 20 out of his wallet. He held up both. As Ben started to take them, he pulled them back out of reach. Top off the gas tank. Be back in an hour. Do not do anything stupid. When have I ever? He flashed a grin and left. A few minutes later, he drove away. The bass of the radio thumped loud enough to rattle the kitchen window. Dad shook his head, settled in his chair. So, Matt, que pasa? Doesn't that mean, like, where's your house? Or is that casa? I don't know. Well, Perry asked me if she could. The rest of the words died. A flare of embarrassment swept over me. My palms and armpits grew damp. The memory of the talk Dad and I had earlier in the year, that talk, came back to me. Oh boy, if she could what? I took a breath. If she could try riding El Cid, Dad rubbed the back of his neck. I do not think that is such a good idea. Too many things could go wrong. Words came back to me. Talking horses and magical weapons and creatures that go bump in the night are all just too much for the average person to believe in. You know this. And what people don't understand, they fear. And what they fear, they often grow to hate. And anyways, it's up to El Cid, he continued. I doubt he would go for it. I already asked. He said he's cool about it. Dad's eyebrows flew up. He's usually more cautious. A long silence, then a smile pulled his goatee to one side. Well, if he approved, he nailed me with his eyes. All Sid is in charge. Ride only around Hufferino, and what? A part of me already regretted saying yes to Perry. The same part wished the only thing I had to worry about in life was hunting monsters. Yeah, sorry, I lost where I was. When did everything get so complicated? Silence filled the kitchen. The only sound was the slow drip of the kitchen faucet and the ticking of the cooling burner on the stove. Dad? I prodded him. Just get over with it. Running a thumb along his jaw, he studied the air between us. Perry seems like a fine girl, or a young lady, I should say. The change in subject caught me by surprise. But okay. Well, yeah. And I do not have to remind you to be respectful, especially to young ladies. I caught myself from rolling my eyes just in time. Yeah. And we had this talk already, remember? It bears repeating. I want people to look at my son and say, there goes a gentleman. Un caballero. I exaggerated my accent just enough to inch up the smart mouth line, but not cross it. Dad was pretty good about letting Ben and I stretch that line, but once across it, we knew our father would be waiting and willing to smack down a disrespectful son. My brother stepped across the line so many times, I wondered why he just didn't leave his shoes on the other side. Perry and I are just in the friend zone, nothing more. That zone has a way of shifting its boundaries. Be aware. He grinned, his teeth a flash of white in his tanned face. Turn with the dishes. Pushing away from the table, he headed into the living room and clicked on the television. After I went to bed, I laid awake, hands clasped behind my head. I stared up at the ceiling and thought about that zone and shifting boundaries. How did other kids know about this stuff? Was I the only one who didn't have a clue? And that, my friends, actually, no. I've decided you're not my friends. You are my enemies. Yes. And that, my enemies, is the end of chapter 17 of Del Toro Moon. I think I'm going to read chapter 18 tonight. We'll see, though. Okay. Thank you for listening. If you liked, please comment, subscribe, like, and turn on notifications. Okay. See ya.